Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okello, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.
Greetings, beautiful people. My name is Simon Javan Okello. I am grateful to be here with you for another episode of the Daily African Proverbs. This is the African Father in America podcast, and I am here in Seattle, Washington. I'm really excited to be here with you for another beautiful, session here. I am running a few minutes behind, but we are here anyway, and we are going to have a great time. I am actually live on YouTube, and I am also live here with you on Clubhouse. This is going to be a shorter conversation. It's going to be less than 1 hour. I'm trying to do something new here where whenever I don't have a guest, I just do a 30-minute conversation here on Clubhouse and YouTube, and then I go to TikTok and just have a 30-minute recap, because I am trying to build the Daily African Proverbs community over there as well. But before we continue, I just want to welcome you all who have been supporting us on YouTube. I hope that if you're just joining us, you can subscribe to the channel. That's one of the ways that you can support this movement. And if you've always been with us, like Simply E, who is with me on the stage on Clubhouse, thank you. And remember to invite, 3 to 5 people to join us for this conversation, and also take a minute to follow and join the African Father in America Club on Clubhouse. Now, today, as usual, we have an amazing proverb, and our proverb today is actually from Djibouti, and so the title of this room here is going to change slightly. I actually jumped the gun and I was about to discuss tomorrow's topic. So I want you to ignore the topic that you see at the top of the room, and I am going to pin a link that is going to lead you to the actual proverb that we are discussing, but it will also lead you to the live stream, the YouTube live stream, where I am live streaming for you, in order for you to be engaged with this conversation, visually. So just give me 1 second. It took me a while to come back to broadcasting the Daily African Proverbs. I had to take some time off in order to focus on the production of Madaraka Festival on August 13th and 14th. So our proverb today from Djibouti says that the tears running down your face do not blind you. The tears running down your face do not blind you. So this is going to be the core of our conversation today. There are 3 nuggets that we are going to share today that I hope that you can take away, and hopefully it can, help you somehow. The hope is that whenever we gather here for these sessions, the Daily African Proverb session, we learn something, we gain some African wisdom through these proverbs that we dissect, and similar to all the other ones that we've been dissecting, this one speaks to how life is full of hardships, and we all go through tough times sometime, but the most important thing is to never give up, and to also remember that when we are at our lowest moment is also when we are most powerful. So before I share the 3 nuggets that I want you to take away, I want to quickly welcome Simply E, who has been an amazing supporter of the Daily African Proverbs. And I also see that MK and Brother and Nate are all here. Thank you. And Steven and Ben B, thank you for joining us. Simply E, how are you doing? And what are your thoughts today? Just share with us where you're joining us from as well.
Oh, you know what? I am great. I'm joining today from USA, Memphis, Tennessee. which is the place that I was born and raised. Um, and I'm so happy to be to be in this space. You did mention Madaraka Festival, that we're back now. After that, you definitely needed to take a break behind that. I know it was a whole big production, and I'm not sure if you shared with everybody the big news behind that. So I definitely don't want to take that away from you, but I hope you're going to share that at some point today. Um, and then about the African proverb today, the tears running down your face do not blind you. And so I think this is it's really cute, because I think it's telling us to just let it out, let it go. Um, because sometimes we're so busy holding tears in, we can't even function. We can't see, and we can't function because we're holding in the emotions behind it as well. If we just allow those tears to flow, we'll be able to see further, literally and physically. So I like this. It's a cute proverb. And thank you, Simon.
Yeah, I love that. I love, your beautiful insights. And I also agree that this is an amazing proverb. And, you know, I just want to also speak to an event that has been going on over the last few weeks, actually, in Kenya, where the elections just happened. And, there was after the elections on August 9th, there was the elections were disputed, and so the person who was declared as president-elect in Kenya is someone who was actually not expected to be the Kenyan president now or in the near future. But he has a long history and reputation as being one of the most corrupt individuals in Kenya. In fact, he had a case in the International Criminal Court related to a lot of violence and killings that have happened in Kenya over the last decade, especially during electioneering period. But then the other person is someone who was known as revolutionary, someone who has always advocated for democratic rights, human rights, democratic space. In fact, a lot of the ways that if you look at the way Kenya handles elections now compared to many countries across the world, not just in Africa, it's quite advanced, and it's just primarily because of the efforts of this. I think he's one of the longest opposition leaders in Kenya, but so there is the majority of the country is actually in mourning because the elections were not only rigged to favor someone who was not expected to be the Kenyan president now, but the Western countries wanted a leader that is like a puppet, someone who has a lot of skeletons in their closet, and someone who would also do what they want. The West does not want real leaders in Africa. They want leaders that they can manage and manipulate while they siphon resources from Africa. So what happened in Kenya is very sad, and there are millions of people, over 8 million people in Kenya, and even more, are actually dealing with tears that are blinding their faces. And I just pray and hope that for those who believed and supported Raila Odinga over the years, including myself, I just pray that you find healing, and also that you remember what this proverb is saying, that the tears running down your face should not blind you. It should encourage you to not only move on, but to find other ways of thriving even in the midst of difficult times. And I think, here in America, a lot of people, especially underserved communities, BIPOC communities, black communities particularly, have learned to exist in a system where they're literally not even wanted. A system that they built, but they didn't build it to serve them. And it's just important for us who are from Kenya originally and we live here in the West to share some of the lessons that we've learned, and to share how you can still, exist peacefully, but also get your share of, what you deserve. It might take a long time for real change to be seen in a place like Kenya, or even here in the US, but the hope and the belief in the fight that our ancestors and our freedom fighters put in is what keeps us going. So anyway, I just felt that what you said, Simply E, and what this proverb says reminds me so much about what just happened in Kenya. Anyhow, I want to go into the 3 takeaways that I want to share with you, and this is something we do every day to ensure that our listeners and our viewers have something to take away with them after every episode of the Daily African Proverbs. But before I do that, I want to, welcome Stella to the space. I want to, welcome Stephen. I think I'm seeing Stephen for the first time here, and Rocky. Welcome, and I see Nate and Brother and MK. Feel free to join us on stage. This is going to be a shorter version of the Daily African Proverbs. My goal now is to make this a 30-minute session when we have no guest. When we have a guest, we'll do it for 1 hour as usual. And when we end in 30 minutes, we will be going to TikTok to also build this movement over there. We just do another 30-minute or less live stream over there. So the first takeaway from today's proverb, again, the proverb today says that the tears running down your face do not blind you. The first takeaway is that the tears running down your face should not blind you. They should actually allow you to reflect on what just happened. Because a lot of the time, we who are in pain and grieving, there is something that we also need to be responsible for. What is it that brought us to that place? And maybe we need to sit in there for a while. Maybe we actually need to, like Simply E was saying, just let the tears come down, but don't let it blind you. Still see in the midst of all that grief, Number 2, you can still see the beauty in life even when it's hard to find, when you're in the midst of, dealing with the tears, that's also when that's when that's when your real friends. That's when you realize who has been sitting next to you the whole time, until you're done crying, until you're wiping your tears. In fact, some also even help you wipe those tears. Those are the people you want around you during the time that you don't have tears, because they've seen you at your lowest moments and they know how to uplift you. They know how to care and nurture you, similar to plants and other living things. We also need people like that, people who, when we are going through periods where we need, fresh water in order for us to become nourished, they are the ones that pour it even without us asking. Number 3, the pain will eventually fade and you'll be able to smile again. So, during the time that you're crying, during the time that you're going through a hard time, during the time that you're going through difficulty, during the time that you have very little in your bank account and you're worried about how you're going to pay your next bill, you should also remember that it's going to be over. It's not permanent. What are you going to do when it's all over? So I want to open the floor with those few nuggets. And I also want to remind you, remember to, follow me on Instagram at Okelo Javan. I share these proverbs there as well. And I love building this community over there as well. But I want to hear from you, Stella. How are you? Where are you joining us from? And what does this proverb from Djibouti mean to you? Thank you.
Hi, Simon. Hello, everyone. This is Stella from Kenya. And today's proverb, just as you are talking and you are talking about the Kenyans who are sad, I'm one of them, and my tears are really blinding me. But this proverb is an encouragement, and I hope we heal. When you walk in the streets, especially over here in Kisumu, people are so sad, people are crushed to the bone, and it, it's terrible, but I hope we heal. Thank you.
Yeah, Stella, I was also thinking about this, and many people believe that, the person who was declared the president, many people have been so brainwashed that they don't know the truth anymore, so they just believe anything that is said in the news, but they don't even look back enough to see that it's all a narrative that has been created, and it's all intended to make them believe anything. So they don't, and this is why I love these proverbs. This is why I love these sessions, because it allows us to also think deeper than what the news shares with us, and somebody was saying online on Twitter that because the person who won the elections, is holier than thou, they say that it's God who did it, and it's because of how much they pray and this and that. But then I was saying that, if it's God who does it, God actually is a very tricky person, because God can allow a thief to steal, to get away with the theft, and then to do well through thievery and eventually go to hell, and so that's something that is probably happening, and a number of people, we are living in a world where, for example, in Kenya, because the institutions are not very, very strong, young people grow up admiring thieves. They don't care how you acquired what you have. They just want to have it. So if you teach them, growing up, I grew up in the slum myself, and I grew up with crooks and criminals, but I also grew up with community activists and people who are diligent in earning their living in an honest manner. And I tested both parts of life. We hurt people, we stole from people, but we also blessed people. And I feel that a lot of youths in Kenya, especially, and in Africa, are really, really in a tricky situation where no matter how hard you work, no matter what you think your vote means, it means nothing. Everything has already been pre-decided. So you have to figure out, what you want to believe. You have to figure out how you want to thrive. You want to figure out how you even want to, how you even want to take care of yourself and your loved ones. This, I don't know. I just want to. There are so many stories I can tell, because this same country that we're talking about, called Kenya, unfortunately Djibouti is the country where the proverb we're talking about today comes from, and it plays a big role in actually the disinformation and also the militarization of Africa by Western countries. So Djibouti is the capital of Western military bases in Africa. That's where China and the US have their biggest military presence in Africa. So it's almost like this proverb is also speaking to that. It's speaking to, the entire economy of Djibouti relies on the military presence of these giant countries that are basically present there in order to control not only the continent, but India and all the Indian subcontinent and the regions around Africa. So this proverb speaks to that. This proverb speaks to how helpless Djiboutians are, and they can't do anything about the presence of this military industrial complex in their own country, and so in a place like Kenya, if we go back to the elections in Kenya, once the British and the US and China say that this is the person who is going to be the president, our militaries are so weak because they know that in 2 minutes, the military power can arrive and they can install whoever they want anyway, So it's just interesting and unbelievable, and really where the war is in our minds. The mental, the biggest struggle is, are you also going to allow yourself and your mind to be stolen like the elections? I think that is where we should draw a line as individuals. How are you going to nourish your mind? Where are you going to, what content are you going to consume online, and how is it going to impact you? I want to hear from Brother Earth as we go towards the end of our short and sweet session here. Brother Earth, how are you doing? Where are you joining us from today?
Peace and love, family. This is Brother Earp. I'm calling from the North Carolina territory. You know, glad to see the tribe back in. Glad you back in the swing of things, Simon. And I've been meaning to ask you about the Kenyan election. And, you just said a bunch of very powerful stuff. And, of course, social media, the news, and a lot of these things for years has been used as tools to misinform and miseducate us, or project. Uh, it projects a fake reality, and a lot of times, like you said, the youth who don't have proper guidance or insufficiency of knowledge or don't understand proper things, they fall for the hype because nobody there to teach them what's really right and what's really wrong. And it's important that there's always ones who stand for the righteousness and continue to stand regardless to the situation. And honor to you for all that you do, Simon. And as far as the proverb, the tears running down your face do not blind you. And when I hear that, or when you said something about sometimes we at our most powerful when we crying, or when we hurting, or when we find ourselves vulnerable. It made me think about, or just reminded me back in the days, little Pee Wee on the school bus, and then somebody get into a fight. Then when one person start crying, ooh, he take it to a whole nother level and just go crazy and take over the fight. And, but at the same time, um, learning or looking at the proverb, I can see it as whether we hurting physically, emotionally, could be sick. Sometimes we have to be persistent and push through these things. The only way tears can hold you back is if you allow it mentally. Like you said, the war is in our minds and for our minds. And long as we come to the point of, or we can understand that regardless if we have tears, regardless if we feeling down, we can still continue to grow. We can continue to elevate, and we continue to evolve and push forward. Uh, I think it's to a very good benefit. The saying that it just because you're crying, it's not over. It's still opportunity. Still time for you to continue to move forward and drive forward. And I'm gonna park my plane right there, Simon. Peace and love to you and the family.
Peace and love to you, Brother Earth. I appreciate your perspective and your contributions as well. If you are just joining us, or if you're here with us for the first time, whether it's on YouTube or on Clubhouse, thank you so much. We are having a beautiful conversation here that is grounded on an African proverb from Djibouti, at the very, very tip of the northern part of Africa is where Djibouti is located. It's one of the most tiny countries, and it has had a president for a long, long time. And the proverb says that the tears running down your face do not blind you. The tears running down your face do not blind you. And we've looked at this proverb in many different ways. We've looked at the just concluded elections in Kenya. We've looked at this, from the way that black people live here in America. We've looked at this also from a very individualized perspective. How does this impact us individually? But also we looked at the 3 takeaways that I hope you can grasp. You can grasp these 3 takeaways if you replay this entire conversation, whether it's on Clubhouse. Yesterday I was surprised. There are quite a few people that I know that I don't see them joining us for these sessions anymore. But when I listened to the replay, I was emailing someone who actually works for Clubhouse the replay of our session yesterday. And I saw a few people that I really miss hearing their voices. So, let me know if you want to help me spread the word to people that have been enjoying the Daily African Proverbs, because we want to let everybody know that we are back. We're also doing some really, really incredible things. We have merchandise that we are pushing now. And if you want to learn more, the best place is for you to go to my Instagram profile. There's a Linktree link there that will lead you to a bunch of new great things that we're doing, including a blog post. We have a number of amazing blogs also based on these conversations that we are having, where we break down these proverbs, but in form of an article that you can read and share. So you can check that out on my Instagram profile at Okello Javan, and on that profile you'll find a link that will lead you to all these good things and good resources that you need to check out. I see that we have my wonderful sister and comrade Kikuyu, Crystal. How are you? And what does this proverb mean to you when you hear the proverb that says, the tears running down your face do not blind you? What comes to your mind? Where are you joining us from?
Good morning, Simon. It's so nice to hear your voice. This is Crystal. I'm joining from Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States today. Yes, I think this is right on time. There's a lot of themes going on right now. In the States, it is Suicide Awareness Month. And I think a lot of times we can become consumed by the weight of our situation. I think about how everything is a life cycle. It doesn't matter what plane you're on, life is experiencing itself in a cyclical way, in every form of consciousness. And I think that sometimes we don't take the opportunity to allow ourselves to feel the things that we need to feel without it being overwhelming. And that's what I get from this proverb. The tears running down your face do not blind you. I think that grief can be opportunities of clarity. It can be opportunities of growth if we allow ourselves to observe the nature of what our situation is, how this came to pass. But our world is constructed to be a lot more complicated than it has to be. So sometimes being in a period of grief can be overwhelming, and there are a lot of imbalances that can come just from just from grief, not really feeling seen, not really feeling heard. So I know for me, what is always grounding and affirming to me is that to remain present, and life is a cycle, not to bypass those emotions, but to just understand that this is the this is currently the present, and even grief, sadness, anger, all of those states of emotions, they come to pass. So just being present in it, leaning into it, even in discomfort, lean into every single emotion. So yeah, that's what I got. This is great. I'm glad that the morning proverbs are back, and I'm done speaking.
Thank you so much, Crystal. I appreciate that. Yeah, I agree also that it's important that we lean into the grief, and um, we also understand that there is something good in grieving too. I think grieving and crying has a bad reputation, and I think I am one of the people who are suffering as a result. I grew up, taught that men are not supposed to cry. So even if I'm dealing with a situation where I feel very emotional, but I also find this strange strength and energy to don't cry at all. You have to be strong, you have to be focused. And I'm a father of 3 daughters, and they cry a lot, and sometimes they're like, what's up with you? Are you a rock or what? But I try to meet them at their place of need, at the area, when they're emotional. I'm just there with them, I stay with them. But I wish I could cry more, because I feel like it's whenever I have cried, I feel relieved more. I feel healed, actually. And I grew up in a church that people made a lot of fun about. Our church in Kenya was called Ayuagra. And Ayuagra means a lot of crying in my mother tongue. And in our church was a weird place. Everybody was crying. Like it got to a place where, as kids, we would literally get out of church because people were crying inside every corner. It was a very interesting place. But now that I look back at it, I understand why my parents and the people around them spent like 30 minutes of the church service just crying, like real tears and wailing. And now I know that it's the struggle that we were going through, the places that we lived in, the pressure that they were living in. It was this space, this church, that's where they were going to release it. So after the singing and the preaching, and then the Holy Spirit would take them over. And it's not like a gentle white church where people would just try to be holier than thou. That one is a real African church, and it was just crazy. But now I understand why there is a need. In fact, instead of us having so many coffee shops, we should have places where people go to cry. I'm just joking. And I want to welcome Jay. I want to welcome Mama May, and Rocky and MK. I really appreciate you all taking the time to join me for today's session of the Daily African Proverbs. Stella has done an incredible job. As a member of the One Vibe Media team that helps make this happen. There are a few others who are not here, like Lavender, who have also helped not only make the Daily African Proverbs possible, but also Madaraka Festival. And as Simply E was saying earlier, I was actually on CNN this Saturday and Sunday talking about Madaraka Festival and what it takes to do a live show like Madaraka Festival. I had no idea that one day I could be on CNN, not talking about some random topic, or a lot of the time when you see black people or African people on CNN, it's about terrible things. So I'm just happy that I had the opportunity to talk about something I love, something I've been building for almost 10 years, and also something that is purposeful, something that comes from a very deep place. And so if you haven't watched the CNN feature on Africa Avant-Garde, the program is called Africa Avant-Garde, you should check it out. You should go to CNN's website and search Africa Avant-Garde and search for the latest episode. If you can't find it and you are in Seattle, you should join me tomorrow. We are doing a screening of this feature, and also we are going to be watching Madaraka, the documentary that I co-produced a couple of years ago. So with that, we are coming to the tail end of our time together today. We are going to be doing this 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time as usual, here on Clubhouse, on YouTube. And then right after this, I'm going to TikTok to go live and do a quick recap of how this session was, so that I can continue growing our community over there as well. So if you have time, please join me over there. With that, we have come to the tail end of our time together today. I deeply appreciate you all. Your support is, deeply, deeply appreciated. Thank you so much.
African father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okello, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.